In the book of Joshua, we read about the conquest of the Israelites going into the promised land, taking it for their own. And there's a whole bunch of battles and just some interesting things happening there that might need some explanation as you read through the book of Joshua. But it's really fascinating because whenever you think of it from a military standpoint, the people of Canaan had just about every advantage in the warfare. They were on the defensive. I mean, the Israelites were attacking them, so they already had their cities, their walls, and the defense ready. They had knowledge of the land. They knew the best places to attack or to defend. They had resources that were already established. In fact, Scripture tells us this was a land flowing with milk and honey. They had their resources. They were strong. They were mighty. They had everything, every advantage that you might think of. On the other side of the coin, you had the Israelites. Now, the Israelites had almost every disadvantage. I mean, they were the ones attacking, but they were coming from limited resources. They had been in the wilderness for 40 years. They did not have the strength and power of being able to have their arsenal behind them. They may have had very few weapons, in fact, because of that time. They seemed to have most every disadvantage: weariness, lack of resources, lack of skill. These people were not warriors during this time. But they had one huge advantage that some of them overlooked, but not all of them. In fact, their enemies noticed this as well. Joshua 5 verse 1 says this: "When all the kings of the Amorites and the kings of the Canaanites heard how the Lord had dried up the waters of the Jordan, their hearts melted, and there was no spirit in them any longer." When they heard that God was with the Israelites, when they saw that there was a miraculous sign, it proved God was with them, their hearts melted. They knew they couldn't stand against God. You know, a lot of times we think in our lives that we can't stand, we can't do the things that God desires for us. We can't make the changes in this country that need to happen. We can't make changes in this world that God desires. We can't even, as a church family, do everything just that God has called us to do in our community, because we think, well, who are we? I mean, we're just simple people. We might have some influence, but we don't have the political clout that others do. We don't have the financial resources that these people have. And so really, what good can we do? And so often what happens is we forget who's on our side. In the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 31, says this: "What shall we say about such wonderful things as these? If God is for us, who can ever be against us?" If God is for us, who can ever be against us? I love this passage. I love this thinking. I love this kind of mentality, because it reminds me to evaluate, whose side am I on? You know, really it all boils down that there are two sides in this journey. It's pretty simple. There's the side of God, and then there's the side that's not of God. And it might be the side of Satan, or we might have any other label that we put on there, but there are two sides. Whose side am I on? Well, if I'm on God's side, that means victory is already assured. That if God is for us, no one can stand against us. Sometimes we get down because we forget that we have God on our side. And He's not backing up our will. He is pushing forward with His will. And when we are with God, we are an unstoppable force. So may all of us remember whose side we're on. And may we remember that with God on our side, nothing nothing can stand against us. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Love y'all.